Hi, I'm Preston Williams, and welcome to Jazz Talk. Today on my show, I wanted to share something special. This is a little different. I don't have anything planned. I'm not interviewing anyone. I wanted to talk about a very special individual, musician named Chick Corea, who we lost last week at the age of 79. Chick Corea was one of the most prolific musicians of the 20th and going into the 21st century. He was one of the most important musicians of all time. When you think of pianists of the last 50, 60 years, first one that comes to mind is McCoy Tyner, Herbie Hancock, and Chick is right in there along with Keith Jarrett. The news of his passing a few days ago was very, very shocking. As you guys know, I had Chick on my show about 6 months ago. Interviewed him. We had a wonderful conversation. And it was interesting. In the very, very beginning, he didn't really want to talk too much about his career. I was kind of, going over some things with him early on, regarding his career. And he kind of just stopped me short. He just says, "Hey, man, I want to talk about the Academy." He was so excited and happy about his Academy and what he was doing with it. So we focused on that and had a beautiful conversation. I was very fortunate to catch Chick Corea several times over the years, maybe 5 or 6 times. Spent some time chatting with him. He autographed a lot of my memorabilia. And 6 months ago, as I said, I interviewed him. But, he was born in, I believe, Chelsea, Massachusetts, came from a very musical family. His father was a musician, too. And, he started very young. He's a child prodigy, a lot like Herbie Hancock. Started at a very early age playing piano, and he had the talent. He definitely had the talent. I guess his father reared him, and, he became just this fabulous musician. One of the things that I found interesting is that, when he moved to New York in the early 60s, he hooked up with some interesting musicians. And when you think about early 60s, of course, Herbie Hancock was on Blue Note along with McCoy Tyner. McCoy actually later, but those guys were already on the scene playing, of course, McCoy with Coltrane and Herbie. Of course, he was a house pianist for Blue Note Records, but of course, he was in the famous Miles Davis Quintet. And Chick hit the scene early 60s. He was working with Willie Bobo and a few other artists at the time. And one of the first recordings that you can hear him on is with Blue Mitchell, trumpeter. And that recording, I think it was 64, something like that, The Thing You Do. And a fantastic recording. You could hear the talent of this young pianist. And my favorite tune on there is Chick's tune. And years ago, I managed to meet Chick Corea, and he actually signed the recording for me. And I'm very, very proud of it. He says, "To Preston, good luck." He signed that for me. And as I said, it's one of my favorite recordings by him, one of the first that you can actually hear him breaking out as a composer as well as a pianist. And then he followed up, I think it was around 65 or so, he did a recording called Tones for Jones Bones. Very interesting title. And then I think around 67, 68, he made an incredible recording, which is still to this day one of the best trio recordings of all time. And he did that with Miroslav Vitous and Roy Haynes. And it got a lot of attention. Now He Sings, Now He Sobs. And Chick, of course, signed that one for me, too. I was very fortunate to get his autograph. And Roy Haynes, as you can see here at the bottom. I don't have Miroslav's, never met him, but Chick signed that for me. One of my favorite recordings by him. And of course, he was making a name for himself because, like I said, he had come on the scene early 60s or so. Herbie, McCoy, they were doing their thing as well. And he got hooked up with Miles Davis, and that really opened things up. I mean, he was on two of Miles Davis's most important recordings during that time period. After the quintet, he was on In a Silent Way and Bitches Brew, which is, what can I say about that? And some very interesting music. They were really experimenting, stretching out. And one of my let's just say this album is so important to me. I have just about everyone's signature on this recording except Miles. Chick, Lenny White, Jack DeJohnette, Dave Holland, everyone signed it. Herbie Hancock even signed it, and he's not even on it. But this is a brilliant recording where Chick was on. And, you could see that this young musician had so much talent because Miles always gathered around him young musicians. And, those musicians who were with him at the time, they sort of went on to become, major stars themselves. Now, right after this, I was about to say Herbie, but Chick had a band, experimental band. It was really avant-garde with Dave Holland and Anthony Braxton called Circle. And oh boy, talk about some really interesting stuff. It was really out there. You think about players like Cecil Taylor, a little bit of Andrew Hill, and pianists like that. Chick was there too, doing the same thing. He was really stretching out. The music was very experimental, and the band didn't last that long. I don't know. Chick just put a halt to it. He stopped it. And I think they were around maybe like a few years or so, but the music that they made was very, very, very experimental. It was really, really interesting. After that, of course, he formed Return to Forever. He and Stanley Clarke, Joe Farrell, and some of the other musicians, earlier, the early formation of Return to Forever. This is before he got, Al Di Meola and eventually, of course, Lenny White came. Well, Lenny actually came before Al, but incredible. I mean, during that time period, you had fusion was just really, really coming to fruition because, of course, Miles had done Bitches Brew. And even before that, a little before that, Tony Williams had done Emergency, I believe it was, in 1969. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the Lifetime band that he had. I think Emergency was first. And bands were just springing up all over the place. You had the Mahavishnu Orchestra with John McLaughlin, Weather Report and Return to Forever were there. And what a group they were. I mean, they would kill you with the stuff that they were playing. I mean, you had the fusion, then you had the acoustic too. They would switch and do both. And that music was just so incredible. Still has had a major impact on me. And I was very fortunate to get all four members to sign Chick. All the guys, Chick, Lenny, Stanley, and Al Di Meola, they all signed No Mystery. And that's probably my favorite Return to Forever song, No Mystery. Great album from 1975. Then they followed up with Romantic Warrior. Got all four guys to sign this as well. A powerful recording. And after this, the band broke up. They disbanded, and they went on to do other things. Of course, Stanley had done School Days. Lenny had done some stuff. Al had his stuff out with, Land of the Midnight Sun, Elegant Gypsy, Casino, and they all went on to be superstars in their own right. And Chick was still doing things after that. After Return to Forever, I mean, he was still coming out with stuff. The Leprechaun, My Spanish Heart, which he signed for me. This is another favorite of mine too, from 1976. He had Stanley on there and the rhythm section of Steve Gadd. And he continued putting out just some incredible stuff. And he even dabbled in some classical stuff for a while and collaborated with so many different musicians. In the 80s, of course, he had a reformed band, sort of like Return to Forever was the Chick Corea Electric Band, which consisted of John Patitucci, Dave Weckl, and Frank Mbali, I believe, and Eric Marienthal. And they put out some really fantastic music. And Chick was just constantly coming out with something different all the time. He would be playing with different groups. Eventually had the Freedom Band that he had with Roy Haynes, Christian McBride, Kenny Garrett. And I actually filmed one of his concerts at a jazz festival. This is back in 2010. I was talking to Chick, and we were just chatting. And I was talking to Roy Haynes too, and that band was fantastic. And I had my camcorder there. I filmed the concert. It was great. And one of the interesting things is after the show, I just went backstage, and I was just standing there, just listening to these guys chat with each other. I was like a kid in a candy store, and all of a sudden comes walking up the great late trumpeter Donald Byrd, who was there. He was in the audience, and then he came in, just listening to Chick. And the guys talk about gigs that they had played on. And, Chick talked about working with Sarah Vaughan early in his career. And just incredible. Was it Sarah or Dinah Washington? I'm trying to remember. I'm going to have to check that. I could have sworn it was Sarah Vaughan. It could be, but it may have been Dinah Washington. I got to look at that. But yeah. And then even before then, I never got a chance to see the early Return to Forever from the 70s. I was a little too young. I mean, even though I'm in my mid 50s, I didn't get a chance to see them until 2007 when they reformed. And that was great. I went to check the band out, seeing Al, Chick, Stanley, Lenny all together. And it was fantastic. The power of that band and just Chick's virtuosity on the keyboards was just incredible. I mean, of course, I'd seen him live, but it's a whole different thing when you saw that band Return to Forever. And Larry Coryell was there. The late Larry Coryell and Victor Bailey were there. I was talking to Victor Bailey and Alphonse Mousson afterwards because they opened for Return to Forever. I was hanging with Dennis Chambers, drummer Dennis Chambers. He was there. And it was incredible. It was incredible seeing that group. And then I caught him again, Chick again, years later. He was with his wife, Gail, and he just did solo piano. It was fantastic. It was in Washington, D.C. at Blues Alley. And again, this guy was just incredible. When I think about his songs, 500 Miles High, Spain, all of those have become classics. And if you guys have never seen Chick Corea, who was influenced by Bud Powell, Thelonious Monk, Art Tatum, and those guys, there's footage on YouTube, and it's Chick Corea Plays Monk. I highly recommend that you check that out. He did that with the Wynton Marsalis and the Lincoln Orchestra, I believe, something like that. But that was really, really good. But Chick was just, as I said, one of the most important pianists of the last 50, 60 years. And his legacy is that, he's influenced so many musicians, and he leaves behind an incredible body of work that we'll be talking about, decades from now. Even though it's gone, his music is here. And like I said, I'm so fortunate, so thankful that I got the opportunity to interview him 6 months ago. For you guys who check out my channel, just put in Jazz Talk Chick Corea, my interview with him back in, I believe it was June or July 2020. Had a wonderful conversation with him, and boy, did he school me. We talked about some interesting things. But I'm sitting here rambling. I didn't have anything planned. I just kind of wanted to share something, my thoughts on Chick Corea, his greatness, his legacy, and everyone's been touched by it. I'm been reading many musicians have posted on social media about the Chick's influence on them, and just the loss. Even Stanley's. I was reading Stanley Clark's. His was very, very touching. I mean, Stanley just talked about Chick was probably the most important musician he ever played alongside. I mean, it's brilliant, and just lets you know none of us are promised tomorrow. We're here today and going tomorrow. But like I said, his legacy is that his music is still here with us. We'll be listening to it forever, and countless generations will get an opportunity to hear and experience Chick Corea. Chick, thank you. Love you, man. Peace.